I've heard the word ban more times than I've heard the word love you. It's entirely possible that both are related to my wrongful ejection from the zoo. That monkey needed to be touched. But still, I hear it more often than I would like. Just like how I've been hearing about this TikTok ban more often than I'd like as well. Forcing me to make this Weasley video, where I have to pretend I am somehow a qualified intellectual in any sort of way. All of you. I wear my heart on my chest as a dumb guy. And I blast it out on this dumb guy channel where I talk about dumb guy things. I am not meant to make points. Nor am I meant to put on the persona of a blue-haired smug liberal who thinks that he's God's gift to Earth because they make points in a video essay. Yeah, actually, you know, I went to uni where nobody actually challenged my very slim, very specific viewpoints. So now I wag my fingers on YouTube at people who have lived different, more exciting and interesting lives than me, and as a result have a different perspective than myself. And if you don't agree with me 110%, I will literally kill you. Your family? Bye. That job? Bye-bye. You think sexual education should be between parents and their children? Say goodbye. You don't have an opinion on a war that doesn't relate to you or connect to you in any way? Point being that this will definitely be a resentful 15 to 20 minutes. Not too dissimilar from my lovemaking, but change the 20 to 2 seconds, and lovemaking to my hand. Let's start from the beginning. If you're unaware or just plain not interested, in the good old USA, the land of alleged freedom, a war on speech has been taking place by the banning of the Chinese social media app TikTok, or at least that's the narrative being pushed by most of its users. This is by no means the first time that the app has been under fire in the US. It has happened once before, and as a point of reference, it has officially been banned in India all the way back in 2020, which we're going to swerve off to and break it down with that example so you can better understand why this ban is taking place in the US. Believe it or not, and honestly I had no idea myself, India and China are hostile nations to one another. As far as my research suggests, it originally started with a border dispute and has spewed onto various things over the years. And being hostile nations to one another, they act accordingly. From the Indian government's point of view, they saw TikTok as a Chinese-based app that had significant influence on their population, and as a result didn't want to risk their own citizens being propagandized against their own nation. Now bear in mind, India is, well, India, and China is, well, China. A real ants in the boot scenario realistically.
Not due to their on-paper stats, as mostly they are equal in every metric. I just personally feel if the two were ever to get into a tongue-kissing try not to bust first all holds no bones war, China would be far more likely to come out on top due to their technological lore, be it stolen tech advantage. Also, China has 500 to India's 164 nukes, and let's be real, if an authoritarian regime was ever in its death rattle, I don't think they'd shy from making the world burn before that last breath.
So what if I proposed a boot to you? Albeit a fading boot situation. The US, the greatest military complex that the world has ever seen, versus China, the greatest market/production complex that the world has ever seen. Two separate superpowers, one with the ability to wage war through guttural strength, versus one who could wage war through the lube of that strength, money, and of course a decent military as well. In either nation and on either side, the last thing you would want is to give your enemy any sort of advantage, especially when those two nations have such a fragile power balance. So then the question becomes, why does China have that advantage? Potatoes! I needed a refresher. Saying too many smart words in a long enough sentence goes against my biological being. The advantage China holds is really simple, and it all has to do with me saying, where is your cell phone? Now, you may be watching this video on your TV, or you may be holding my face near your genitals while you squeeze one out. Smells real good in here. But either way, without meaning to, you, through muscle reflex, patted, eye scanned, or thought about where it was, because that device never leaves your side. Having a cell phone is equal in value to a modern person as having your keys or your wallet, with the extra nice added perk of that device storing all of your data. And an even nicer perk than that, it even has a lovely microphone to perhaps store your conversations. For China, a government that has a social credit score, that if it drops low enough you can no longer participate in modern society. China, a government that works in direct tangent with its companies and actively controls its outputs. China, a country with its own internet firewall that only allows things that China deems appropriate. China, a country that's rammed with CCTV cameras even out in the forests. The access to a device like that would be a wet dream. So I pose another question to you. If China is so controlling and so restrictive of its own citizens, what would make you reasonably think that that same nation wouldn't want to control and manipulate others outside outside of its own borders. Take a moonwalk back for me. Less than a whole minute ago, I said China controls its companies. Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Technically, by all rights, and if I'm gonna be accurate and honest, China is those companies. The authoritarian governments of China is completely interlinked with the private companies of China. ByteDance, the owners of TikTok in other countries, would be allowed to pursue their own business interests, whether it benefits them or not. And they're allowed to pursue those interests in whatever way they choose, provided it's legal. But because they're based in China, by law, in a wink wink, nudge nudge, they are obligated to pursue the interests of the Chinese Communist Party, the government's in charge currently, in case that wasn't obvious. And what would interest an authoritarian government more than a cultural pulse inside foreign enemy nations? Well, I suppose being the pulse. TikTok sets the trends. TikTok sets the social agendas. TikTok controls the youth, and TikTok is the cultural influence of the USA, meaning China can control, edit, or push anything they see fit in the US in order to suit China's own interests. If China damn well pleases, they could tell you the sky outside is red with stars. They just have to push the people on the algorithm who agree with them to make that true. Within the next 50 years, unless the Chinese government is overthrown, they will in fact be the undisputed superpower of the world. Americans do not like to hear it, but that's true. Globally, they have expanded into Africa, providing essential services in exchange for rare resources, as well as trade relations and influence. They spearheaded the formation of BRICS in order to fight NATO's grip, and in no uncertain terms, they own the production market for quite literally everything. And now, currently, right now, they have their last piece in their global hooks. They're controlling of what people think via TikTok. Hence why, for America, an empire that is now in decay, this is a national emergency, and that's why it's being treated as such. A foreign entity has invaded you all, although be it with soft power. They have access to your data, and we know this because people have reverse engineered the app, and they know for a fact that TikTok is monitoring your keystrokes, meaning they probably, like I said, have access to your camera or microphone, meaning they know you. They know your family. They know how to manipulate and enrage you. And as a result, they have everything that makes you. Hence why I wasn't being a smug little bastard when I said you were missing the point of this ban. The ban is being put in place to suppress foreign influence speech. Speaking directly to Americans, even though I kind of have this whole time, your government isn't taking your toy away from you because they hate you. They are taking it away because it will hurt you, at least from a US perspective. Whew, I just need a breather. Right, you've had the bulk, now you get the balls. As an outsider looking in, here's what I've observed. 1. There's a joking / serious tone over the ban, and it is speared by the app's own content creators. Their main complaint being that the government doesn't like competition, and as I already mentioned, it's a quote-unquote removal of free speech. I've covered the speech enough, so I'm not going to go over that point again, and plus overall it's dumb anyway because TikTok's not the only app that you can express your thoughts. It just so happens that TikTok, for these content creators, happens to be the app that they benefit the most from, which I will get to, but I have to say they have a point. From a competitive angle, the government is absolutely murking its ops. But here's the thing to that point though. The US government has offered multiple times to buy TikTok and its entire US operations. But ByteDance, aka the Chinese government's representative, won't allow it. Curious as to why that fucking is. In my best thick comb over to cover my bald spot and polyamorous glasses, perhaps the Chinese government don't want to lose their strongest weapon against what is currently their strongest enemy. Point 2, the TikTokers are tying their own news. Do me a favor and name 5 TikTokers off the top of your head. Okay, great. Now do me a favor and name 5 YouTubers off the top of your head. It's kind of odd how that long form content has way more of an impact on you, that you could do it with absolute ease with the YouTubers, but the short form swipe up after your chuckle. Jokes stay with you, but not the actual people who make it. TikTok is the economy of rapid engagement. YouTube is the economy of investment. It takes very little to gain an audience on TikTok. 1 second is equal to 1 follower. The trade-off being for that rapid growth is that you're not as valued. But on the other hand, a YouTube video is commitment to understand the concept of whatever it is you're watching. Like right now, you've watched
exactly 8 minutes and 43 seconds of this video.
You kind of know me. You're at least somewhat invested in my words. Or you're listening to my words while you're being plowed or plowing your partner. And as a result, you will remember my name, or at least are far more likely to do so. In a roundabout way, what I'm saying is, it takes a lot more skill to make YouTube videos, and I know it sounds arrogant and stupid, than it does to make TikToks. The difference is a very low barrier of entry versus is a moderate one. All it takes is for a TikToker to be famous is they just have a lucky day. And if you keep that in mind, a world without TikTok, 90.9% of its creators would not be famous at all. The D'Amelios and Bella Poarch aren't very talented. They just got lucky. Except for that one song by Bella Poarch. Bro, you even had me shaking my ass in the shower. This ain't Build-A-Bitch. Ooh. And as a result of their luck, they got rich. So is it any wonder that these people want to keep the only means of their fame and money? Of course f***ing not. They know deep down that 400,000 follow accounts only means that on this app. And they are horrified to see this app go up in smoke. It has nothing to do with freedom of speech or whatever else they're spouting. It purely has to do with their own self-interest and their own means of keep printing that money machine, baby. And also, it is not a conspiracy theory that the Chinese-based app is pushing pro-Chinese-based app content.
Also, this Smaggle escape creature you see before you is the spokesperson for conservative dating app The Right Stuff, and even he is against the ban. A dude whose politics are largely keep America the way it was is totally fine being pegged when the Chinese are paying him to do so. Could not have asked for a better example, thank you little rodent boy.
It's kind of strange how we never see someone on TikTok saying, you know, TikTok's kind of bad, guys. Because statistically someone would be. It's almost like the algorithm purposely suppresses those ideas. And finally, America wouldn't care if they controlled the means of harm. What this all can simply boil down to. If TikTok was born and bred and stamped in the US of A, not only would TikTok be celebrated in spite of its many harms, it would be downright patriotic to have this on your phone. What? The government wouldn't dare encourage us to use their version of TikTok? Dude, the issue is not that the masses are being manipulated. The issue is the US aren't the ones doing the manipulation. I guarantee you, once TikTok is gone, and it will go, there will be 10 different US versions ready to take its place. And when those 10 US apps eventually do come out, America is going to be making sure as much as they can that everybody in the world can use it because they want that sphere of influence. Hoorah! I'm very sorry for you Americans that your dopamine tap is being turned off, but you could always turn it just a slight bit back on by subscribing to Dino and joining me whenever I recover from this long editing session over a nice wholesome video of a lady allegedly making a man eat her ass and then airing him on social media about it. Thanks as always. Bye bye.